All right, folks, I think I should be live, but obviously there's a YouTube delay. So please let me know in chat if you can hear me and see me all right. If the AV is clear, please let me know on chat, and I'm also checking on my phone in the meantime. Okay, looks like I'm online, at least on my phone. Great. Vaibhav says yes. Fantastic. Thank you, Vaibhav. Okay, folks, sorry for the delay. I know I'm more than 5 minutes late today. Apologize. Again, I was facing some technical issues, and that's why I got delayed. So I do apologize. Good to see a lot of you, Abhijit, Advait, Ishika, Sesha, Arun, Srivatsan, Trisha. Good to see you folks here. Awesome, awesome. We'll get started in like 1 minute. Awesome. Ramesh, Sindhu, Payal. Fantastic. Good evening, everyone. I apologize for the delay and I apologize for the weird background also. I was facing some technical issues. I'm not the most technically skilled person. So when these issues happen, I get rattled a little bit. Anyway, fantastic. I hope you folks are doing well. Advait, Prateek. Awesome. Awesome. Fantastic. So welcome everyone. A lot of you would have attended these sessions in the past, so you know the drill, right? We call them Blitzkrieg sessions. Basically, what we do at 2IM is we run these Blitzkrieg sessions. We started them last year, the huge hit. So we're continuing this year as well. And we go section wise. So you've been seeing a lot of VRC Blitzkrieg sessions. You will very soon see Quant and DLR as well. So what we do in Blitzkrieg is we typically discuss questions from past papers. Okay, so in VRC we stick to like the last year, which is 22. You will also see a repository of 21 videos and 2020 as well on our channel. But right now what we're doing is we're discussing 2022 papers. In Quant and DLR also you will see the same structure, and it will start soon. Okay, so VRC Blitzkrieg typically happens on Friday, either at 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. Okay, we took a break like the last couple of weeks. We're starting again with slot 2. Then we'll do slot 3 as well. Slot 1 is done. You can go and check out the videos. Okay. All right. So the whole idea is behind this is that that we get together. Okay, and we solve questions together. Okay. So for VRC, the structure that I follow is we give you the passages beforehand. Right. So best is to, if you want to take the best out of the session, go through the passages in advance. Before coming to the session, go through the passages. You will find the passages in the description of this video. Okay, and my teammate Harshwan will also send you the link. So there is a Google Doc link which he'll send you. I think he's pinned it. You can get it from there, or you can go to the YouTube video description, open that document, read the passages, and then come to class. Okay, and then we solve the questions together. I'll give you limited time to read the passage, but it will be limited. So hence it's best if you read them in advance. All right, you can do that from next time if you didn't do it this time. All right, fantastic. So just give me 1 second. Great. Okay, so what we're going to discuss today is CAT 22 slot 2 RCs, Octopus and social science. The titles mean nothing. Okay, in CAT you don't get titles, remember. So these are just placeholders that I put. The titles don't mean anything. Okay, so these two passages we're going to discuss. They're there in the document as well. Now, before we start, just a couple of quick announcements. Okay, and these are good ones. So I want to spend like a minute, not like 10 minutes. Okay, don't worry. So there's an All India mock that's running right now. Okay, a lot of you must be aware. First of all, 2IM students, I see a lot of you on the stream. You don't have to register. Okay, so this is not for you. You go inside your course, the mock is available. You don't have to do anything. Just attempt the mock. Okay. Now, non-2IM students, you can register for this All India mock. Okay, for 99 rupees. It started today. It will be available tomorrow and on Sunday as well. So you'll have to attempt it in this window. Okay, by Sunday midnight. Okay, and then the mock will close on Sunday midnight, and you'll get your percentile, the All India percentile, and the solutions with text and video explanations for each question on Tuesday. Okay, so it's an excellent way to, benchmark yourself, assess your current performance with test takers, thousands of test takers across all India. Okay, so go for it. It's 99 bucks, and if you join a 2IM course, any course, after that we'll refund you this week. All right, so it's a pretty good deal if I say so myself. All right, 2am students definitely attempt this. It's already available. Non 2am students also, the moment you register, you can attempt it immediately. It went live today morning at 9 a.m. All right, it's completely on CAT 22 pattern. Okay, we also have a flat 6,000 off running, a discount window which is only valid till tonight. Okay, so yeah, you pretty much don't have much time. If you're considering our course, if you're thinking of joining a course, this is a great time to join because you can get a 6,000 rupee off on all our full courses. Okay, so the number is there on your screen. You can contact that number. You can email us at info@2m.com and our people will help you out. All right, fantastic. Let's begin. Ramesh is saying it should be on Zoom. Ramesh, if it's on Zoom, then how will the external audience also interact? Okay, this is, I mean, as students, of course, we do a lot of practice on Zoom, right? That's different. So this is for the external audience as well. That's why we're doing it on YouTube. Okay, all right, people, let's begin. Now, the first one that we're doing is Octopus. Okay, the title doesn't matter. So please open the document. The document is there. Open the document and read the first passage only. Okay, don't read it from the screen because this is incomplete. Read it from the document. Read the passage. When you're done, extract the main idea in 2 to 3 sentences and send it on chat. Okay, once you're done reading, we will solve the questions. I can give you about 5 minutes to read this passage. Okay, go for it. Please read the entire passage, not only the first paragraph. Entire passage, extract the main idea in 2 to 3 sentences and send it to me. Don't read it from the screen. I'm going to turn off the screen, by the way, because I need to make some changes. Read it from the document, which is in the YouTube description. It's also pinned on chat. Okay. Now turn off the presentation for like 2 minutes till you're reading. Okay, great. I hope you're still. I'm guessing you're still reading. I haven't gotten too many main ideas. We'll wrap up this reading soon. Okay, so please send me the main idea in 2 to 3 sentences in chat, and then we'll start discussing the questions. Can you see the present? I don't think you can see the presentation anymore, right? I don't think so. Okay, 1 second. Folks, can you see the presentation? Can you please confirm? And can you hear me as well? Okay, thank you, Shri. All right, let's start discussing. I think I've given you more than 5 minutes. Yeah, so in the interest of time in these sessions, this is what happens, right? I will be able to give you limited time. So that's why it's best to read these passages in advance at come. Okay? All right. Now, fantastic. So I'll comment on your main ideas in a bit. Okay? Let's first go to the questions. So see, what happens is if I explain the passage now, I'll end up giving you answers to a lot of questions, right? Invariably, that will happen. So we'll discuss the questions and then I'll make sure to discuss the passage also. All right. In the meantime, you folks can tell me how would you rate the complexity of this passage? Just in terms of content of the passage. You haven't seen the questions. High, medium, or low? Let me know in chat. Okay, great. A lot of main ideas. Tell me about the complexity also. Let's look at question 1. Okay. Now, this is how it's going to work. When you look at the question, don't send the answer on chat. I'll run a poll. You can answer the poll. Okay? All right. And take your time. Let me run the poll now. There you go. The poll is up on your screen. Please vote now. Okay. And in terms of complexity, most of you are saying medium and some of you are saying low. Okay. I'll talk about it. I do agree with you. I'll talk about it a little after the questions are over. Okay, folks, I'm going to give you 30 more seconds and then I'll close the question. All right, Shivam, I understand. No problem. Everyone should vote. Don't hesitate to vote, please. Okay, nobody can see who's voting what, so it doesn't matter. And even if they can see, how does it matter, right? We're all learning. Okay, last 10 seconds. Okay, and we're done. Okay, now you can see it on your screen how you've voted. All right. So now let's just go through that. 35% of you are saying 2. Okay, this is your first choice. Now there is not a this. I mean, again, of course, this is a majority, but it's not even close to 50. Okay, that means this is an indication that you did find this question confusing. Whenever the vote is split, it's an indicator, right? 27% of you are saying 4. This is your second choice. 25% of you are saying 3. This is your third choice. 12% are saying 1. This is your fourth choice. Okay, it's pretty close. It's not like, I mean, a good majority for me to say that, oh, you found this question manageable is probably 60%, 70%. Okay, all right, let's look at this. Now, whenever it comes to questions, and please pay attention now, this is the most important part of this session. Please pay attention to see how I solve the question, and then you can pick best practices from there. It says, all of the following are reasons for octopuses being misfits, except that they. This is an except question, classic except question that appears in CAT a lot. Now, if you're getting confused by except questions, there's a very easy trick. First, read it without except. Okay, and read the question like a child, each and every word. All of the following are reasons for octopuses being misfits. So octopuses are being called misfits in the passage, right? I think in the first paragraph itself, they're being called misfits. So what are the reasons? So the author, the question setter says, all of the following are reasons for octopuses being misfits. So all the 4 are reasons. Now bring in except. Except. So that means all 4 are reasons, minus 1 equal to 3. Your job is to pick this one. Isn't it? Okay. So your job is to pick an option that is not a reason for octopuses being misfits. Because there's an except question. I hope this is clear. If you have any questions, put them in chat. Okay, so we're looking for an option which is not a reason for octopuses being misfits. Now, except that they have several arms. All right. Is this the reason for octopuses being a misfit? Let's go back now. In these kind of questions, these are specific questions pertaining to specific portions of the passage. You should always go back to that specific portion of the passage, reread it quickly and confirm your answer. Not the entire passage, specific portion. Okay, let's go back. Now, the reasons are all here, I believe. Okay, in the first paragraph. So let's read this. Octopuses are misfits in their own extended families. Now, poor octopuses. They belong to the mollusca class Cephalopoda. But they don't look like their cousins at all. Other mollusks include sea snails, sea slugs, bivalves. Most are shelled invertebrates with a dorsal foot. These are their cousins, isn't it? They don't look like their cousins is what the author is saying. Now, this is what describes their cousins. Most are shelled invertebrates with a dorsal foot. Cephalopods are all arms. Now, you see the difference? Their cousins are shelled invertebrates with a dorsal foot. Cephalopods are all arms. That means they don't have foot. And can be as tiny as 1 centimeter and as large as 30 feet. Some of them have brains the size of a walnut, which is larger for an invertebrate. Now read these lines carefully. This tells you the difference between octopus's cousins and octopus. Okay, so octopus's cousins are shelled invertebrates with a dorsal foot. Cephalopods, on the other hand, have arms. can be as tiny as 1 centimeter, as large as 30 feet. Some of them have brains the size of a walnut, which is large for an invertebrate. What does this mean? Try to understand this sentence. Octopuses have brains the size of a walnut, which is large for an invertebrate. Remember, their cousins are shelled invertebrates. Octopus is also an invertebrate. So, but this sentence is telling you that octopuses have large brains, whereas their cousins don't. Isn't it? Try to understand that. Okay, now you've reread this. Okay, let's go back. Remember, we're looking for a reason that is not, we're looking for an option that is not a reason for an octopus being a misfit. Okay, octopuses have several arms. Is this the reason for octopus being a misfit? Yes. Why? Because octopuses have arms, whereas their cousins have a dorsal foot. This makes them a misfit in that category. Misfit is different. So this is a reason, but this is an except question. We're not looking for that. Okay, so this is not an answer. Okay. Octopuses are consumed by humans and other animals. Is this the reason for octopuses being a misfit? Or rather, tell me one thing. Is this mentioned in the passage? Is this aligned with the passage that octopuses are consumed by humans and other animals? Let's go and check. Okay, in the second paragraph, it says, it makes sense for these mollusks to have added protection in the form of a higher cognition. They don't have a shell covering them, octopuses, and pretty much everything feeds on cephalopods, including humans. So the passage does say that humans feed on octopuses. It's aligned with the passage. But is that the reason for octopuses being different from their cousins? Tell me. Think about it, and there is a YouTube lag which is very annoying, okay, but I'm going to wait. It's aligned with the passage, and that's how the question setter is tricking you, right? It's aligned with the passage. You're like, oh, this was mentioned in the passage, but then what was the context in which it was mentioned? It was not mentioned as a reason for them being a misfit. It was mentioned that, okay, they don't have, poor these guys, they don't have a covering, they don't have a shell. That's why the nature gifted them with a brain, because they have to avoid their predators, which are everywhere. But that is not a reason for them being a misfit. This doesn't differentiate them from other animals. Potentially, this is the answer. Let's park it. Why are we parking? Because we haven't looked at 3 and 4. Okay. They do not possess an outer protective shell. They don't. They don't have an outer protective shell. And don't bring in general knowledge, by the way. Okay. Look at the passage. The passage says they don't have an outer protective shell. They don't have an outer protective shell, but their cousins do. So that's a differentiating factor, and that's why they're a misfit. This is not the reason. Exhibit higher intelligence than other mollusks. Yes, correct. They have a bigger brain. Invertebrates usually don't have that brain. So this is also a reason why they are differentiated from their cousins, and that's why they're called misfits. They have a higher intelligence, bigger brain. Their cousins don't. Their cousins are dumb. Right? Okay, so this is not the reason. We're looking for except, so the answer is definitely 1. Okay, Riaz, you can type in small case, otherwise I get a little startled. Okay, but you're right. Okay, do you get this? Now, folks, one tip I'll give you. Okay, and this you can use in your mock analysis as well. See, this was, honestly, I'll tell you one thing. This question, don't get disheartened if you got it wrong. We're all learning. Okay, but this question is not a very difficult question. The passage is moderate. Okay, the question is also moderate. Had you read the question properly, you would have gotten the answer. Okay, some of you might have made a mistake with interpreting that question. You forgot to keep an except and all of that. So that will come from practice. Some of you jump to the answer. With these specific questions, go back to specific portions, confirm, and then give the answer. Okay, all right, great. It's in the passage, but not a reason. So it says some of them have brains the size of walnut. How can we conclude that all octopuses have a big brain? Okay, hold on one second. This is talking about cephalopods. Okay, are all arms and can be as tiny as 1 centimeter and as large as 30 feet. Some of them have brains the size of a walnut, which is large for an invertebrate. Okay, great, good point. Focus here, folks. Bring your attention back to the screen. Read the second paragraph. You've read the second paragraph also, right? It makes sense for these mollusks to have added protection in the form of a higher cognition. Okay. So this clearly tells you that octopuses have a higher cognition or a higher brain power. It's not just that line. It's the second paragraph as well. Rishik, how can we conclude bigger brain means higher intelligence? Read the second paragraph. I didn't read it, but you've read the whole passage, right? Higher cognition, cognition means brain power. Cognitive skills means add this word to your vocabulary. So second paragraph clearly tells you that octopuses do have higher cognition. And that's where the answer is coming from. So it's also the second paragraph. Good catch. So one thing that you've learned here is just because this was mentioned in the first paragraph doesn't mean you only focus on the first paragraph. We always have to take the entire context into consideration. Second paragraph talks about it. Exhibit higher intelligence than either. Doesn't talk about brain size. It says higher intelligence, which is the higher cognition point. Okay, I hope this is clear. If there are questions, you can ask me at the end of the session. In the interest of time, I'll move on. All right, but the answer is to learn from it. All right, let's go to question 2. But mollusks is a class. So, Shivam, so what? Mollusks is a class, but they're referring to cephalopods here, which is octopuses. Okay, all right. Read the thing. It'll make sense. Okay, let's go back. RC question 2. Please take your time. This is a longer question. You can go back, verify, and then answer. Okay. I'll run the poll. Shivam, stay back after class, okay? If you want to discuss that mollusks is a class, okay? I'm happy to talk to you at the end of the class, okay? Okay, one more minute. Last 10 seconds. Sridhar, don't give the answer away. All right, I'm ending the poll now, folks. Okay. All right. Now I can tell you. Sorry, Sridhar, I had to retract your message because kind of giving the answer away. Okay. So now look at the way this question is split. Okay. This is a clear case. This is a typical classic CAT question. Okay, where you get stuck with two options. Somebody was asking me in the beginning. I get stuck with two options. How do I resolve it? That's classic CAT. Okay, across sections, more in VRC, right? So I'll give you a trick. See, mostly it's practice and improving your comprehension. Okay, but I'll talk about that strategy that you can use. Anyway, now you look at this. 47% of you are saying 3. Okay, let me clear my screen first. Okay, so this is your first choice. 47%, nearly half. 40%, very close, says 4. Expected in this question. Okay, 9% in 2, which is very less, and very few takers for 1. Okay, the tussle is between these two. Now I can tell you one thing: the answer is definitely between 3 and 4. One of them. It's not 1 and 2, but we'll talk about 1 and 2. Okay, it's definitely, now this is a tricky question, highly tricky question, and you'll understand why. That's why, folks, I keep saying whenever there is a specific question or any kind of question, right, don't hesitate to go back to specific portions of the passage and reread them quickly. Again, I'm saying specific portions of the passage. You should never go back and reread the same passage twice. Okay, so with specific questions, don't work based on your memory. Nobody's asking you to remember the facts when you're reading the passage. Okay, go back to specific portions based on your mental map and look at that. So now focus on how I solve this question so that you can pick some best practices. Okay, all right, I'm not saying mine is the best way. I'm just saying you can learn best practices. All right, now please focus here. This is a tricky one. You have to be really, really careful. Okay, read the question very carefully. Based on the passage, we can infer that all of the following statements, if true, would weaken the camouflaging adeptness of cephalopods except. Now it's a long question, break it up. This is pretty standard. Based on the passage, we can infer that all of the following statements, if true. If true meaning the question setter is telling you, assume all the 4 options are true. Simple. Okay, there's nothing, no catch there. It's a very standard question format. Assume all the 4 options are true. Okay, don't try to say, oh, this is wrong, nothing. Assume that all of them are true. Okay, now if true, would weaken the camouflaging adeptness of cephalopods. Now cephalopods are experts at camouflaging, isn't it? What does adeptness mean? Adeptness means expertise. If you're adept at something, you're an expert at something. If this is not a part of your vocabulary, add it to your vocabulary. Okay, so cephalopods are camouflaging experts. The passage clearly talks about that. That's the main idea of the passage, isn't it? How do they go about camouflaging themselves? Different ways, right? That's the main idea. So it's saying we can infer that all of the following statements would weaken the camouflaging adeptness of cephalopods except. That means all of them will weaken except one. Your job is to pick this. So you have to pick an option that does not weaken the camouflaging expertise of cephalopods. Is that how we all understood this question? Yes or no? Very quickly. Is that how we understood this question? There's silence on chat because of the lag. I get very worried when there is silence. I'm somebody who thrives on interaction. Okay, this is not your fault. It's a lag. Great, great. Couple of you are saying yes. Quickly, folks, and keep interacting with me. That's how you learn. Fantastic. That's how we inferred. Okay. If you made a mistake in interpreting the question, learn from it. All right. Do write it down. There's a notepad and CAT, right? Write 4 minus 1 equal to 3 if that confuses you. Read it without except, then bring in except. These are all techniques. And I'm telling you, once you practice enough questions, okay, this will become automatic. Then you won't have to write 4 minus 1 equal to 3. Okay. Okay. All right. Great. Fantastic. So we are looking for that one option that does not weaken the expertise of cephalopods. All right. Okay. Now, where is the expertise of cephalopods? The expertise of cephalopods comes from different factors, right? In fact, most of the passage talks about that. Okay. Let's go to the first one. The hydrostatic pressure at the depths at which cephalopods reside renders radial muscle movements difficult. Now, when you're reading this option and you read radial muscle movements, if you've read the passage effectively, your mental map will tell you where was radial muscle. It was somewhere in the beginning, third or fourth paragraph. So what do? You understand the option and then go back and check. Don't rely on your memory. Okay. The hydrostatic pressure at the depths at which cephalopods reside renders radial muscle movements difficult. Okay. Now, what is the function of radial muscle? Let's go back. Okay, there we go. Right? Okay, now let's read this. Chromatophores are organs on their bodies that contain pigment sacs, which have red, yellow, and brown pigment granules. These sacs have a network of radial muscles, meaning muscles arranged in a circle radiating outwards. These are connected to the brain by a nerve. When the cephalopod wants to change color, the brain carries an electrical impulse through the nerve to the muscles that expand outwards. That means radial muscles. Pulling open the sacs to display the colors on the skin. That means the movement of radial muscles is very important, isn't it? If you read this paragraph, you'll understand that the movement of radial muscles is very important for a cephalopod to camouflage. If the movement gets restricted of radial muscles, then there is a problem. Okay, now come back to the question. The hydrostatic pressure at the depths at which cephalopods reside renders radial muscle movements difficult. If the radial muscle movements become difficult, their expertise will weaken. They will not be able to camouflage as expertly as they are because they are dependent on radial muscles for camouflaging. You get my point? So the option is telling you, assume it's true, radial muscle movements get difficult, it weakens the camouflaging. This can't be the answer. We're looking for except, an option that does not weaken. This is not your answer. Okay, if you have a question, put it and I can handle it like once this is done. Let's go to question option 2. So 1 is not the answer. Let's go to option 2. The temperature of water at the depths at which cephalopods reside renders the transmission of neural signals difficult. What are neural signals? Add this to your vocabulary. Neural signals are brain signals. We just read something that happens through brain signals. If the transmission of brain signals becomes difficult, that will definitely reduce their camouflaging adeptness because the signal passes through the nerve in the brain, nerve to the brain. So if neural signal is getting impacted, it will weaken the camouflaging adeptness of cephalopods. This is not the answer. Now we come to 3 and 4. This is where the problem is. Okay. Read the option very carefully. Okay. And you will realize, and when you realize what you have done, you will want to punch yourself. Okay. And again, don't be, there's nothing wrong. It's a tricky question. Very trickily framed question. But you'll realize and you'll want to punch yourself because you'll be like, this is a silly mistake. Okay. All right. Number 3. Light reflects the colors red, green, and yellow at the depths at which cephalopods reside. Okay, now tell me, is 3 aligned with the passage completely, or is it not aligned? That's what I'm asking you. I'm not even asking you the question. Is 3 aligned with the passage or not completely? If it's not, tell me why. If it is, then great. It's not aligned. Okay, Ishika, tell me why. Tell me why. Somebody has to tell me why. Come on, come on. Yes, aligned. Okay, no, no. Everybody's saying no. Karun, fantastic. Very good. Look at what Karun is saying. Green, brown. Now, this is how these evil question setters trick you. A question setter is always evil, by the way. Okay, I create mocks, right? My job, when I'm creating a mock, my mindset is how do I trick you? That's what a question setter's job is. They're just doing their job. But this is an evil question setter. What they've done is light reflects the colors red, green and yellow at the depths at which cephalopods reside. Go back. What does the statement say in the passage? Okay. Right. Now look at this. The brain carries an electrical impulse through the nerve to the muscles that expand outwards, pulling open the sacs to display the colors of the skin, on the skin. Why these three colors? Okay, where are the colors being spoken about? There we go, in the first sentence. Chromatophores are organs on their bodies that contain pigment sacs which have red, yellow and brown pigment granules. Red, yellow and brown pigment granules. And then it says, why these three colors? Because these are the colors the light reflects at the depths they live in. They have red, yellow and brown. Light also reflects red, yellow and brown at the depths they live in, and that is what helps them to camouflage. If you're telling me in the option that light reflects the colors red, green and yellow, then there is a problem, no? They have red, yellow and brown. Light is reflecting red, green and yellow. So what happens to brown then? It won't reflect, it will reduce their weekend for camouflaging. It will reduce their intensity for camouflaging, the colors don't match. You get my point? So this is why. Now the trick here is if you don't go back and check, you'll be like, oh, I read this. I just read three colors and they match. You have to go back and carefully check, very incisively. And this is the problem. Okay. So the answer now you know is this. But now let's look at 4. The number of chromatophores and cephalopods is half the number of iridophores and leucophores. How does this matter? See, the way to solve this question is when you come to 3, what will typically happen is you'll come to 3 and you'll be like, this can't be the answer. Okay. No, actually you'll say that this is probably the answer. Okay. Why? Because, sorry, I'm also getting confused. Would weaken the camouflaging adeptness of, you would think that this does not weaken. Okay. You would think that this does not weaken, right? Because the colors match. So you'll say, oh, maybe this is the answer, I'll park it. Then you'll come to 4. The number of chromatophores and cephalopods is half the number of iridophores and leucophores. You'll be like, this also doesn't weaken. So then you get confused. Okay, you're stuck with 3 and 4. Both are not weakening, but one has to weaken. So that means there's a trick somewhere. That is where you have to go really, really in detail. Very sharply you have to match with what the passage is saying and then pick an answer. Okay, so somebody was asking me, how do I differentiate between 2 very close options? Now, these are not close options, but they both seem to be correct. So in this case, when you come to a quandary like this, go back to specific portions of the passage, reread them and confirm the answer. And if you're terribly confused and you can't make head or tail of it, leave this in the exam. This question was the toughest in this passage. So either you leave it or you spend that extra time to figure it out. Okay, so 4 has nothing to do with weakening. The passage doesn't talk about number or anything of that sort. Okay, so hence the one that does not weaken is number 4. The answer is 4. Alright, I hope this is clear. If it's not, put your questions. I'll come back to it at the end, but I hope this is clear. Alright, and learn from the strategies. Okay, now this is the right time to hit the like button. Even if you got the question wrong. Even if you got the question wrong, if you're enjoying the session, please hit the like button. The likes do matter for us. Okay, so do hit the like button if you're enjoying the session. Successfully pick the wrong ones. Alright, where is the evidence for point 4 in the passage? That is the point, right, Arun? There is no evidence. There is no evidence. So then we can say that this does not weaken, right? It's not related. It's not related. So that's why it's not weakening. Sir, wouldn't that increase 1 per pi hypothetically? Pankaj, that's what I'm saying. So if you're able to differentiate, if you've practiced enough, and if your reading speed and comprehension is up to that level, then you'll be able to differentiate it quickly. But if it's taking too long and you're getting confused, I said you skip this question. Correct. Okay. Fantastic. Correct, Advait. All right. Let's move on, folks, to question 3. Please do hit the like button if you're enjoying the session. Okay. Take your time. Now you can see the questions are quite tricky, although the passage is okay. So yeah, do this. 1 second. I'll run the poll. Any questions about 1 and 2? Stay back and I'm happy to answer it. Pankaj, that's not true. Okay, this is a CAT passage, right? You saw question 1 was manageable. Now let's look at question 3 and 4 and then you tell me whether they are the same level of complexity as 2. The complexity varies. You'll never get an easy question in CAT. But there are moderate questions and then there are difficult questions. And that's where question selection strategy comes into picture. And Arun, good way of thinking. You know, your question to me was, where is the evidence? I always say this, when you're inferring something from the passage, always ask for yourself, where is the evidence? If there is no evidence, there is no inference. But in this case, it was just unrelated to the passage. That's why we picked it. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, last 10 seconds. I'm ending the poll now. All right. Now let's focus on this question. Now you see the majority here. It's increased. Okay. Now, if you folks are correct, provided you're correct, then that means you found this question manageable. If you folks are not correct, then that's a different story. Okay. So 66% of you are saying 2, sea snails. That's your first choice. 20% of you are saying 1, okay, which is your second choice, polar bear. 10% of you are saying 3, which is squids. And 3% of you are saying cuttlefish. All right. So more than the, what do you call it? Your majority is with sea snails. All right. Let's see if you're correct. Okay. Based on the passage, now read the question very carefully. Based on the passage, it can be inferred that camouflaging techniques in an octopus are most dissimilar to those in. If you don't read the question properly, you'll probably read this as similar, and then you'll get the question wrong. Okay, so based on the passage, it can be inferred that camouflaging techniques in an octopus are most dissimilar to those in. In your head, understand the question. So the question is asking you, pick an option whose camouflaging techniques are dissimilar to an octopus. So that means 3 options are similar. Their camouflaging techniques are similar. 1 is dissimilar. All right. So they're all mentioned in the passage in varying degrees. Let's go back and remember the context is camouflaging techniques in an octopus and the similarity or dissimilarity. So you have to understand where it is. Your mental map will tell you somewhere here. Right. So it was mentioned polar bears somewhere, right? You folks can tell me where it's mentioned. Jagged actually matches leucophores. So polar bears is here. Okay, great. Polar bear is here somewhere. Cuttlefish is also here. Then we have squids also, right, mentioned somewhere. Okay, and then we have your sea snails. Okay, let's look at this. All right, now different techniques, right? Papillae are sections of the skin that can be deformed to make a texture bumpy. Even humans possess them, goosebumps, but cannot use them in the manner that cephalopods can. Cephalopods use it for camouflaging. For instance, the use of these cells is how an octopus can wrap itself over a rock and appear jagged, or how a squid or cuttlefish can imitate the look of a coral reef by growing miniature towers on its skin. It actually matches the texture of the substrate it chooses. Now understand this. It's not just last para. It's also the penultimate para that I'm reading. Understand this. Now these are all camouflaging techniques, right? So an octopus, what it does is, or a cephalopod, okay, it's giving octopus here, can wrap itself over a rock and appear jagged. So it camouflages with the rock because the rock is jagged. Squid or cuttlefish can imitate the look of a coral reef by growing miniature towers on its skin. It matches the texture. So they're also camouflaging. So it's similar, right? Their camouflaging techniques are similar. Remember, the question is asking similar, not the same. So the way an octopus camouflages is similar to a squid or a cuttlefish, isn't it? So those 2 options are gone. We're looking for dissimilar. Okay. Finally, the leucophores. According to a paper published in Nature, cuttlefish and octopuses possess an additional type of reflector cell called a leucophore. They are cells that scatter full spectrum light so that they appear white in a similar way that a polar bear's fur appears white. Leucophores will also reflect any filtered light shown on them. So you can infer that a polar bear is also camouflaging with the snow. That's general knowledge. Okay, so it's similar to a polar bear camouflaging. But now we are left with sea snails. Where is sea snails mentioned? Where is sea snails mentioned? Tell me. Somewhere there where it says that, there you go, in the first paragraph. But they don't look like their cousins at all. Other mollusks include sea snails, sea slugs, bivalves. Most are shelled invertebrates with a dorsal foot. Sea snail is very different from an octopus, isn't it? Can you infer from this and tell me how does a sea snail camouflage itself? Potentially infer again and tell me how does a sea snail, do you think, per the passage? Don't bring in your knowledge. General knowledge is okay, don't bring in specialized knowledge. How does a sea snail camouflage itself? It's very different from an octopus, isn't it? Sea snail has a shelled exterior. It's a shelled invertebrate. It's very different from the octopus. The shell helps them to camouflage, potentially. Octopus doesn't have that. So octopus is bound to be dissimilar with a sea snail. So the answer is definitely 1. Okay. All right. This is a manageable question. Okay. It's not very difficult. But again, if you got it wrong, don't worry about it. Okay. Learn from it. The technique here is to go back and check specific portions. If you don't do that, you'll end up in trouble. All right. Okay. If you have questions, put it. We'll come back to it at the end. I have to speed up now. Okay. Question 4. Go for it. Please like the session. If you're enjoying, I will run the poll for question 4. We'll pick up a bit of speed here. Pankaj, this previous questions will have to be dealt with at the end of the session, okay? So stay back, we'll deal with it. Yeah, the polar bear is quite interesting. It's quite hidden there. But yeah, you can draw an inference from that evidence. How do you create a mind map to find the right choice? You have to follow effective reading strategies, Shivam. If you're my student, I don't know if are you a 2IM student or not a 2IM student? Can you tell me? I can send you otherwise a YouTube video. Okay, Shivam, your name sounds familiar, but confirm to me. Okay. Anyway, I've sent you the video. You have to learn effective reading strategies. Okay, you have to become an effective reader. Okay, in my basics class at 2IM, I give my students and I sort of hammer this into their head 8 strategies that they have to follow. If you follow that, practice it consistently, the mind map gets created automatically. But you have to effectively read the passage. Okay, so check out that video. It will give you some idea. If you're my student, you know how to get in touch with me. If you're not, you can message in the under the YouTube video and I'll help you out. Okay. Last 2 questions are a breather. Yes, I agree. Okay, I'm ending the poll in 10 seconds. Okay, ending it now. Fantastic. Now look at this. Do you see the majority here? Now, see if you folks are right. Now, the majority was right in the last class also, last question also. If you folks are right here, that means you found this question easy. Okay, easy to moderate. I mean, there are no easy questions in CAT. It's easy to moderate, right? So this is your overwhelmingly. You're telling me 85% is like another level. Okay, 85% usually does not happen. Okay, so this is first. Then you have 662. So few takers, but let's see what's right. Okay, I just hope that you folks are correct. All right, Oscar. Hi, Oscar. Which one of the following statements is not true about the camouflaging ability of cephalopods? Now, see, this not true is not in capital letters, so don't get used to this, by the way. Okay, even with except. Typically, except comes in capital letters. Now, tomorrow, I am Lucknow. Some evil question. I shouldn't be saying this, but anyway, I don't mean evil in the evil sense of the word. Some evil question setter might just decide not to capitalize except. Then what will you do? Don't get used to it. Okay, so sometimes they'll capitalize if they're showing mercy. Sometimes they will not. Okay, which one of the following statements is not true about the camouflaging ability of cephalopods? Not true. Okay. Cephalopods can take on the color of the predator. Has this been mentioned anywhere? Has this been mentioned anywhere in the passage? Not really. Not mentioned. Don't bring in external knowledge, even if you know about cephalopods. Okay? Stick to the passage. Let's park this. Why are we parking? We haven't looked at 2 and 3 and 4. We have to pick the best answer. Cephalopods can blend into the color of the surroundings. Correct. Cephalopods can change the color. Correct. Cephalopods can change the texture, correct? All of this is mentioned. But cephalopods, can they take on the color of the predator? No. They take on the color of the surroundings. Okay? This is the answer. Well done. People who got it right. Okay? People who didn't get it right, do not worry. You are learning. Learn from it. Okay? Now, I'm going to make an important point. Please listen to me. See, this passage, let's talk about the complexity of the passage. This passage, based on CAT standards, is a moderate passage. Okay, and if you found it difficult, remember you're learning. If you prepare consistently, you will also find it moderate. But by CAT standards, this is a moderate passage. Now, this is what we call a concrete passage. Isn't it? It's very concrete. It's talking about animals, like, animals that you can touch, feel, octopuses, cephalopods. It's talking about very concrete things. Right? You can feel, touch, experience. Very, very concrete passage. As opposed to an abstract passage. Abstract passage is what? Abstract passages are ideas. The second one is like that. Ideas. We'll talk about existentialism. Talk about morality. Talk about what is right and what is wrong. We'll talk about, what does life mean? All those amazing things, philosophical things, right? Abstract passages tend to be difficult. Now, this is not a rule. There is no rule in VRC. But typically, concrete passages are manageable because you can quickly connect to them. Abstract passages sometimes go to another level. Okay, that's why I brought in this combination so that I can help you understand the techniques. Concrete, you read, moderate passage. Okay, just because the passage is moderate doesn't mean all the questions will be moderate. Just because you've read a passage doesn't mean you have to solve all the 4 questions of that RC. Remember that. Because typically one question will be tricky in every RC, no matter how easy the passage content is. Typically. If you can solve 4 questions and if you're sure about it, great, do that. But don't force yourself to solve 4 just because you've read a passage. Now here, if you were to leave a question, I would say you should have left question 2. Of course, in prep phase, we don't leave it. In the exam, you should have left this. I would have probably left this in the exam. I wasn't in slot 2. Okay. But if I were in slot 2 and I didn't solve this passage in an exam setting, I did it like separately. But I would have typically left this. In that exam pressure, I probably wouldn't have spotted red, green, yellow. I would have been confused between 3 and 4 and not being able to break the tie. So I would have said, okay, I'm not going to take a risk. I'm leaving. And I'll do 1, 3 and 4 enough. Right? So the learning is concrete passages are typically manageable. Second, just because you've read a moderate passage doesn't mean you go and solve all the questions. Don't force yourself to do that. Always focus on accuracy. Okay? Over here, I'll have to come back to it. I can't go back in the interest of time, but stay back after class. I'm happy to stay back for half an hour after 10 and solve all your questions. All right? Okay, and over here again, you're my student, right? So, but I'll solve it in the session itself. Okay, fantastic. Now comes the fun part. All right? Sorry about the evil laugh. This passage that we're going to read, if you haven't read it till now, will make your head spin. Definitely it's going to happen, unless you're used to it. It's a philosophical passage up in the air. Nowhere as concrete. It's an abstract passage. Okay? So now, I'm going to tell you up front what you have to do with this passage. When you're reading it, don't panic. Okay? Read it. Be as broad as possible in your main idea. Be correct. Don't go out. Look at it from the author's point of view. Don't get stuck on each and every detail. Do not attempt to understand each and every detail. You won't be able to, unless you're a philosophy student. Okay? So be broad. Read everything. Don't skip anything, but don't get stuck on anything. Try to extract a broad main idea, which is correct. Send it to me on chat and then we'll go to the questions. We'll solve whatever questions are manageable. It's a good strategy to follow for these kind of passages. Go for it. Don't read it from the screen. Read it from the document. Okay? Correct, Pratik. Slowly getting used to it is the key. Slowly go. This passage is complex. You can reduce your speed a little bit. Not too much. Natural speed a little bit. Okay? Check out the link that Harshwan from my team has pinned. Open that document. It's also in the YouTube description. Open the document and read it from there, not from the screen. Go for it, people. Enjoy. Look who's here. Nishant, good to see you again, man. Good to see you again. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. By the way, folks, I keep saying this again and again. And by the way, I don't ask Nishant to come to these sessions, okay? unlike some other YouTubers. No. So Nishant comes off his own accord because Nishant is a great guy. Nishant, good to see you, man. It's always good to see you. Nishant is in IIM Bangalore right now. He was a 2 IIM 22 student who is sitting in IIM Bangalore right now. Just started his course. I hope everything's going well with you, Nishant. Our call is still pending. But good to see you. Good to see you. Give people some tips on chat. Give people some tips. These are folks who want to be in your seat next year. They want to be in IIM Bangalore. Give them some tips. Give them your topmost tip. Okay? Go for it. It's always a pleasure to see Nishant here. Yeah, by the way, my passage, I've stopped this thing. I need to update my deck. So keep reading, okay? Nishant will give you some tips. Nishant is too kind. I just saw your chat, Nishant. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Again, I'm saying, folks, he does this on his own accord, okay? He's one of those really nice chaps who loves 2IIM. And he's just a super nice guy. So, Nishant, I really appreciate you just coming in here and taking out the time. Okay. I hope you can see the presentation. I did stop it in the middle. Should come back. There's a problem with tech. Oh, it's come back, I think. I think. Are you able to see my presentation? Sorry, I'm interrupting your reading, but please tell me. Thank you, Nishant. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Keep reading, folks. I'll give you some more time now. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but keep reading and extract the main idea as broadly as possible. Don't worry about it. Just give me a broad main idea. Give me something. Okay? And don't panic. Sometimes YouTube chat is typing something, is just throwing smileys. Shivam, I'm trying to reply to you. Hold on. I don't know why this happens. There you go, finally. Folks, please send me your main ideas, okay? Even if it's one sentence for this passage, it's fine. But send me something, okay? Once you're done. Abhinav, good job. Good job, okay? Given the complexity of this passage, what you've extracted, good stuff. Okay, good job. Others, let's have some more main ideas. Don't hesitate. Karun, good job. Good job. Honestly, I'm saying this. Both Abhinav, Karun on the right track. Very good job given the complexity of this passage. This is exactly what I want you to do. When you encounter a complex passage and you've decided to attempt, see, you'll encounter a complex passage and you say that, okay, I'm not going to do this. Most people in CAT, what they do is, even the 98 plus percentilers, right? They'll do 3 passages and then they'll do VA questions. Okay. It's rare for a person to do all 4 passages. Your reading speed and comprehension has to be phenomenal. So then you come in that 99.5 plus bracket. So if you've decided to attempt the passage and it's a complex one, extract a broad idea. Of course, be correct. Don't go against the author, but extract a broad idea. And then based on that, whatever questions you solve, you can solve, you solve. If you're able to solve 2 questions from this passage, right? Fine. You have 2 other passages where you will be able to solve 3 questions in one and probably 4 questions in another one. 4 plus 3 plus 2. 9 questions done of RC. Fantastic, right? Okay, and then you have your VA questions, which is 8, out of which you solve 6 questions. That brings you to 15 questions. That's a very good attempt. Right? Okay. Arun Kumar. Right. Okay, Arun, fair enough. My only question to you is, Arun, the last part that you've mentioned, language as a social institution, is that a part of the main idea? Or do you think that's an additional point? That is what I want you to think about. Fair enough, Rishik, no problem. Ariman, fair enough. Pratik, fair enough, but again, the natural evolving part, I'm not sure if it's a part of the main idea or an additional point. Just be careful with that. You have to extract the main idea, right? See, if you're including an additional point, it's okay, no problem. But your main idea should cover the main elements first. Very nice, Srivatsan. Very nice. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to make an exception here. Does anybody need more time? Let me know in chat. Otherwise, I want to start discussing this. Anyway, I want to make sure that's done in 2 hours because, I mean, I'll stay back, but I don't want to make it very long. Good job, folks. Good job. I mean, the ones who you send the main idea, in spite of the being the passage so complex, you're able to extract a broad idea. That basically tells me 2 things. One, your reading skills are reasonably good. Second, you've understood the technique to handle abstract passages, right? Riaz, it's about social sciences, social thought, and social institutions. Riaz, that is the first line. That is the first line. But is that the main idea? That's what you need to ask yourself. Okay, we'll talk about it. Okay, I think everybody's done. Let's talk about it. Now I'm wondering how to go about this passage. Okay, I will explain this passage. I didn't explain the first passage because it's concrete. Most of you got it, but I'm happy to stay back and explain it at the end if you want. This one I'll definitely explain. I'll give you my approach of solving it and the way I did it when I read it the first time. Okay, but I won't start with that. We'll start with the question, then come back to it. Okay. All right, perfect. Let's get ready. Okay. Don't rush through these questions. Go back, check, and all of that. Do all of those things. Okay. Take your time with this one. Don't rush. Let me start the poll. And see one thing that Rajesh keeps saying, and I completely believe in that, not because he's my boss, but I do believe in what Rajesh is saying. Rajesh keeps saying this. He says, find the joy in these things. Okay. So he says, DLR, you have a tough puzzle. Instead of getting like all annoyed at it, find the joy that, okay, this is a puzzle, this is a mystery that I'm cracking. Right? Similarly, RC questions. Fine, I understand it's a complex passage, but find the joy in it, right? The question setter is out there to trick you. Your objective is, I'm not going to let the question setter trick me. Go with that mindset. Go with that positive sort of, strong mindset and enjoy the process. If you get it right, fantastic. You'll get a kick out of it. If you get it wrong, it's okay. You'll learn. You'll get it right the next time. Start finding the joy in learning in all these 3 sections, and I'm telling you, your preparation will become significantly better. Look at all these people. Nishant, who was here, okay, or Chandni, or Rohan Joshua, sitting in Calcutta, or Kavit, right, or Rahul Sharma. Anybody, these people loved the preparation phase, right? All of these are 2IIM students, so do that, okay. 4th option. What? Oh, sorry, folks. Sorry. My bad. This is what happens when I do last things at the last minute. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Oh, okay. 1 second. Okay, it should be okay in a minute. Okay, 1 second. Clear. Thank you. Thank you, Sridhar. No, I made a mistake. I copy pasted at the end. Today was a little bit of messy. I've been a little unwell. That's why I look like this. So it's been a little crazy for me. So that's why I missed it. Sorry about that. One more minute, people. Karan, unfortunately, there's no way to get back the poll. Okay, once you've put in the answer, don't worry. Just keep the correct answer in mind. Okay, last 10 seconds, people. I'm closing the poll. Just vote, put in something, and then learn from it. Okay, if you get it wrong. All right. Okay. Oh, interesting. You've given me a majority in this question, so that means if this is right, you found the question manageable. Although fewer people voted, but that's still okay. It doesn't matter. 65% of you are saying 4. Okay. And it's pretty funny that I didn't give you the complete 4 if this is the right answer, right? So we'll see. 65% of you are saying 4, which is good enough for this question. 25% is saying 2. Somebody also told me that they're confused between 2 and 4. Okay, Rishabh. Okay, 6% are saying 1 and 2% are saying 3. All right. Now let's consider this question. It's an important question because you'll have to learn the strategy of these questions. Understand this. Okay. Please give me your full attention. Okay. What does it say? Consider the fact that the stock exchange and the black market are both market institutions, one formal, one not. Which one of the following statements best explains this quote in the context of the passage? See, whenever they give you a sentence, okay, or a word or whatever, that doesn't mean that you only focus on that sentence. If you do that, I'm telling you, you will get the answer wrong. Whenever they give you a sentence, whether they say in the context of the passage or not, it is given that you have to consider the context of the passage. Unless they specifically tell you not to consider it, which I don't think is going to happen. Literal meaning and all, they won't ask you. So these questions, you have to consider the broad context of the passage and not just focus on this line. Of course, take this line. This line is important. But look at the lines above it. Look at the lines below it. Understand the context and then answer the question. Okay, they've given you a question based on a line. If it was as easy as just looking at the line and answering the question, then it wouldn't have been a CAT question. Right? So it's always there is context. You have to always, whenever there is a specific line question, I always tell my students, read the lines above it, read the lines after it. Don't just limit yourself to that line, you'll get it wrong. Okay, let's go back and read it now. Now in this case, what you should do is, this is a classic question where you can build a shadow answer. You know what a shadow answer is, right? A shadow answer is an answer that we build in our head before even looking at the options. Why do we do that? Because options are designed to confuse you. So if you can build a shadow answer without looking at the options, then that will help you to improve your accuracy. For instance, main idea, we always do that. We always have a shadow answer ready. Let's look at the line now. Okay, this is the line, right? Okay, now read the above, read below, consider the context. What are we saying here? Okay, so it says, institutions deriving from statute like joint stock companies are formal by contrast with informal ones such as friendships. Okay, so here it's saying that there are two kinds of institutions. One that is derived from statute, laws and regulations, like joint stock companies. Obviously, there's company law and all of that, right? So they're very formal, as opposed to an informal one, which is friendship. Of course, there are no laws governing friendship. For God's sake, if you have an institution, if you have friendship which has laws, and then there is a problem, deeper problem. Okay, so there's formal and informal. Okay, there are some institutions that come in both informal and formal variants. Very important. So sometimes it's formal and informal, it's very sort of clear. But there are some institutions that come in both variants, as well as mixed ones. Okay, now look at the example that the author is. Example is connected to this. Consider the fact that the stock exchange and black market are both market institutions. Right? One is formal and one is not. So it's a variant, right? It's a variant of a market institution connected to the previous line. There is a market institution, it comes in two variants, informal and formal. Now continue. Consider further that there are many features of the work of the stock exchange that rely on informal, non-codifiable agreements, not least the language used for communication. What does this mean? That means the stock market is also a mixed institution, right? Because there are some aspects, some features of the stock exchange which are informal. You're getting it? Bring it all together. To be precise, mixtures are the norm. From constitutions at the top to bylaws near the bottom, we are always adding to or tinkering with earlier institutions. The grown and the designed are intertwined. What is the crux of this? It's focusing on mixtures. Mixed institutions. It's very fluid. You have formal and informal, but you have same category, formal and informal. You have stock exchange, which is some aspects are formal, some aspects are informal. So it's fluid, right? That's what's coming out of it. Now, this wouldn't have come out had you only looked at the line. What did you do? When you read it first time, you might not have understood this. You extracted the main idea. I'll tell you the main idea. But you came back from here, you read the context, lines above, below. You understood it. You created a shadow answer. Go back and now let's see. Okay. Which of the following statements best explains the quote in the context of the passage? The stock exchange and the black market are both organized to function by rules. Is this true? stock exchange and the black market are both organized to function by rules. Don't bring in external knowledge. We just read that stock exchange is formal, black market is informal. If it's informal, there are no rules. This is not correct. This is not a line for the passage. Market instruments can be formally traded in the stock exchange and informally traded in the black market. Is that what the sentence is? Is that what the meaning of the sentence is? The shadow answer that we created was mixture as the norm. Same domain, you can have formal and informal. Same institution can have formal and informal aspects. But here it says market instruments can be formally traded in the stock exchange and informally traded in the black market. That is not the formal informal part that we were talking about. The formal informal part is that the stock exchange is very formal because it has rules and regulations and statutes, whereas the black market is very informal. This is twisting the formal informal meaning that is there in the passage. And if you bring in external knowledge, you might pick this. Let's say for a finance guy, you're like, oh, this is true for finance. No, but this is not what the RC is saying. Okay, not your answer. Okay, the stock exchange and the black market are both dependent on the market to survive. All right, but is this the point here? The quote is talking about formal and informal, right? Is this related to that? No, it's not related to that. Might be true, but it's not related to that. Not the answer. Okay. The stock exchange and the black market are examples of how, even within the same domain, different kinds of institutions can coexist. Voila. That's what we spoke about, right? There are some institutions that come in both informal and formal variants as well as mixed ones. And then it goes on to give you the example. The answer is actually in the preceding line. If you don't read that, you won't get this. The answer is this one. Well done, folks. Okay, the people who got it right, 65%, I'm very impressed. With a tough passage, you're doing this. People who didn't get it right, see, people who picked 2, please understand why 2 is not the answer. That is the most important. That's how you learn. Okay, and also now the strategy that you have to remember is don't make this mistake again. Okay, when there is a specific question, always consider context of the entire passage, but most importantly, lines above, lines below. That's how we did it. That's why I always say never hesitate to go back to the specific portion of the passage when you're solving a question. If somebody tells you outside that don't do that, they're scamming you, or they're just misguided. Okay, fantastic. Good job for people who got it right. Okay, let's do this. Next one. Very good, Rishabh. I'm glad you got it. Riaz, fantastic. Good job. Please like the stream if you're enjoying it. Those likes matter to us. So if you can just like, that'll be great. Subscribe to our channel. Also, folks, the All India mock that Hashwin's been talking about, he'll send the message again. Give it. Okay. See, if you're a student, it's already a part of your course. So you too don't have a choice. Give it within this 3 days. I'm talking to our students. You'll have an option to give it later, but give it now. Then you'll get that All India percentile and all of that. No. So give it. Doesn't matter. Don't wait for your preparation to get over to do mocks. That's not how things work here. This is not your 10th and 12th grade exams. In fact, we tell people if you want starting a preparation, start with a mock. You'll know where you are. Okay, so go for it. Current students, give it. 2am students. People who are not 2am students, I understand it's 99 bucks, but I can tell you it's worth it. Okay, the questions are fantastic. Very, very designed with a lot of thought at the CAT level. There are text and video solutions for every question. Okay, and if you happen to join our course in future, we'll refund you these 99 rupees. Okay, so I would highly encourage you to register. The link is there. Hashwin sent it. Yeah, Vatan, I haven't read the passage. I don't read the passage before, because if I read the passage, I'll end up giving you the answers. Right? So you have to solve the questions first, and then I'll read the passage at the end. Okay, take 30 seconds. Vatan, I gave you time in the beginning, right? I think you joined in late. The session's been going on for 2 hours now almost. Is this not in the PDF? It's there in the PDF, right? Yeah, it's there in the PDF. Last 10 seconds. No problem, Vatan. Sridhar, that's it should be uploaded by now, Sridhar. It happened on Sunday. It's not uploaded. Ping on the group, Sridhar. It's an internal question, right? Ping on the WhatsApp group. Pranav will help you out with it. Okay, 10 seconds, folks. I'm ending the poll. All right. Okay. We'll have to pick up speed with 3 and 4, right? Because I want to explain the passage as well. All right. Now, folks, here, of course, the majority has gone down. 44% of you are saying 2. Okay. 37% of you are saying 1. It's very, very close. All right. 10% are saying 3. Okay. Still a sizable number. 7% are saying 4. Okay. Now, please focus on the question. It's a tricky one. Please focus and then you'll understand. Now, first of all, read the question very carefully. All of the following inferences from the passage are false. With except questions, if they're confusing you, read without except. All of the following inferences from the passage are false. So, the question set is saying all of them are false. Except 4 minus 1. Your job is to pick 1. That means this is not false, isn't it? The one that you will pick is not false from the passage or true from the passage. All right. Okay, so we have to look for the not false or true one. All right, let's look at this. Inference, whenever there is an inference, all CAT questions are inferential in nature, by the way. There's mention inferences, but all of them are inferential. Always look for evidence. If you're picking an option, you have to give me evidence. Actual evidence in terms of lines or paragraphs from the passage. If you can't give me actual evidence concrete, that means your inference is wrong. Okay, all right, number 1. Natural language refers to that stage of language development where no conscious human intent is evident in the formation of the language. Understand this option. Natural language refers to that stage of language development where no conscious human intent is evident in the formation of language. Is that what the passage is saying? Is the passage saying that a natural language there is no conscious human intent. So when natural language is forming, there is no conscious human intention in it. Is that what the passage is saying? Let's go back and confirm. It speaks about language at the end, right? Okay, let's look at it. This is a paragraph that you have to read, the last one. Language is a formative institution for social life and for science. Both formal and informal language is involved, naturally grown or designed. Language is all of these to varying degrees. So language is a formative institution for social life. Languages are paradigms of institutions, or from another perspective, nested sets of institutions. Paradigms means models. Syntax, semantics, lexicon and alphabet character set are all institutions within the larger institutional framework of a written language. So it's calling language also as a institution, social institution. Okay, now look at this. Natural languages are typical examples of what Ferguson called the result of human action, but not the execution of any human design. Reformed natural languages and artificial languages introduce design into their modifications or refinements of natural language. Okay, this is the answer, by the way. Look at this sentence. Natural languages are typical examples of what Ferguson called the result of human action. This means that Ferguson says human action resulted into natural languages, or human action caused natural languages to develop, but not the execution of any human design. That means there was no conscious design on part of the humans to develop natural languages. It developed by default as a part of their action. Humans did some action, languages developed. But did the humans mean to develop languages through their action? No. They were just doing their own action. The languages just developed as a byproduct. So there was no design element there. They didn't go and say, oh, I'm going to design a natural language. No, I'm just doing my action and this language just develops. So is there intent? There is no intent. Okay, this is what the option is saying, that there is no conscious human intent. Is this true for the passage now? Looks like it's true. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to pick that. So let's park it. Seems true. Number 2, the institution of friendship cannot be found in the institution of joint stock companies because the first is an informal institution while the second is a formal one. Is that true? Is that what the passage is saying? Can you infer this? Can you infer that the institution of friendship cannot be found in the institution of joint stock companies? Give me evidence. Give me evidence. Now, if you've picked this, give me concrete evidence, lines where it says institution of friendship cannot be found in the institution of joint stock companies. Yes, it says one is formal and one is informal. But does it say that you can't have this institution of friendship in the joint stock companies? Doesn't it tell you that you can have mixed institutions, overlapping institutions, all of that? First paragraph, middle part. Where is the line, Riyaz? Pick it up. Pick it up. Is that the one that I marked? Give me actual lines. I've marked that. We read that, right? It's saying one is formal, one is informal. But my question to you is, can you infer that institution of friendship cannot be found in the institution of joint stock companies because first is an informal and while the second is a formal one? Where are you inferring that friendship cannot be found in that institution? It doesn't say that, right? It simply says one is formal and one is informal. But it doesn't tell you that the informal one cannot be found in the formal one. In fact, it goes on to give you an example where it can be mixed, right? Potentially. 15th line is like, you have to give me the line, people. I've read this just now. Institutions, one second. Institutions deriving from statute like joint stock companies are formal by contrast with informal ones such as friendship. There are some institutions that come in both informal and formal variants as well as in mixed ones. It simply tells you one is formal and one is informal. Is it telling you that the informal one cannot be found in the formal one? Aren't formal and informal two institutions within the domain of friendship? No, that's not what the passage is saying. The passage is saying, it's telling you joint stock companies are formal, friendship is an informal institutions. Then it tells you that there are some institutions that come in both variants. And then there are mixed ones. It's just giving you the different variety The essence is fluidity. But it doesn't tell you that friendship cannot be found. No, no, no. No, contrast just means it's simply different. Srivatsan, contrast means different. It doesn't say it can't be found in another one. Okay, so be careful with that. So it's a very tricky one, very tricky one, and I'm not surprised that you fell for this. But you can't infer this from the passage. Okay, so not the answer. Okay, as concepts, culture and tradition have no analytical, explanatory, or expository power, especially when they're treated in isolation. This is negated in the passage. I won't go back because of in interest of time, but you go back and check the specific portion. It's negated. It's false. Institutions, Sridhar, you'll have to wait till the end. Okay. Institutions like the family, rituals, governance, economy, and the military are natural and cannot be consciously modified. The passage clearly tells you there can be evolved. You can go back and read. The answer is definitely 1. Okay, I'll have to move on in the interest of time, but I can come back to it later. Let's do very tricky questions, so don't beat yourself up if you didn't get it right. Go for it. This one in 2 minutes. Okay. Please like the stream if you're enjoying it. I understand these sessions can be hectic. You have to read 2 passages, discuss, listen to me going on and on and on. But listen, it's the nature of the game, right? It is, RCs can be hectic, so you have to get used to it. So might as well power through it, right? Just and try to enjoy it if possible. That'll help you make your journey easy. Main idea question. Very nice. We'll see now. Now I can explain to you the main idea also after this. Okay, I'll explain the passage, or maybe I'll do it at the end. So options. I haven't run the poll. Poll is there, no, Riaz? One more minute. Ten seconds. Shivam says it's easy one. That's good. Shivam, I hope you're right. I think you did extract the main idea. So I think if you did, then you're probably on the right track. Okay. Ending it now. Look at this. Look at this. This poll. Okay, you've broken your own record today. 88% of you are saying one. Okay, very nice. This is a main idea question. Nothing. Okay, we'll talk about it. I'm getting a little too excited. We'll see if you are right. This is your first choice. 88%, overwhelmingly. 5% for 2, 5% for 3, no takers for 4. Okay. Which of the following statements best represents the essence of the passage? This is a main idea question. Okay. Now, with this passage, of course, most of you, what you did was you found it complex and you extracted a very broad main idea and you gave it to me. Many of you were right. Now, you've picked an answer and 88% of you are saying this. If this is the correct answer, understand, isn't this a very funny, ironical situation? Typically, if a passage is complex, then you'll have trouble extracting the main idea, right? But here, what you did was, you were very broad. You went with the mindset and said, okay, this is complex, I'm going to be broad. I'm going to extract a correct main idea, but I'm not going to fixate on details. I'll extract a broad one. You did that, and it actually worked, because this is the right answer. Okay, well done, folks. So the point that I'm trying to make is, just because a passage is complex and esoteric and difficult, don't start panicking. And somebody was asking me that content of the passage was difficult, but the questions were manageable. Is this a common trend in CAT? Yes, it is. It happens quite often that if they give you a tough passage, esoteric abstract passage, then the questions are typically manageable. Or other way around. If it's an easy passage, they'll make the questions difficult. It doesn't always happen. There is slot 1. We discussed a philosophy of technology passage. I don't know if you guys attended my Blitzkrieg, but you can go back and check. There was a philosophy of technology Blitzkrieg in slot 1. Now that passage was horrible. The questions were also difficult. Okay, so sometimes it will happen like that. But typically they do that. They do compensate. You know, a benevolent exam setter would do that. Okay? Alright. Then there's some pictures of work of Question 2. Okay, hold on. And by elimination, testament to the importance of main ideas. Fantastic, Srivatsan. Okay, very nice. Okay. Which of the following statements best represents the essence of the passage? Institutions are structures that serve to coordinate the actions of individuals. This is the main idea, folks. The main idea here, very, very broadly, is that what are institutions? It's talking about social institutions. I'll explain the passage, don't worry. The passage is all about talking about what are social institutions. It defines social institutions, and then it gives you various examples of social institutions. What is the crux? What is the crux of the definition of a social institution? The author says they are there to coordinate the actions of individuals, drive action. That's the crux of it. So it is a part of the main idea. Is this the complete main idea? No, but you don't have a better option. Let's go to number 2. It is usual in social thought to treat culture and tradition as different from institutions. Is this the main idea, or is this an additional point? Right? This is not the main idea. It's an additional point. Learn to differentiate from that. That'll come from practice. Language is a fundamental formal institution for social life and forms. This is also an additional point. That's why somebody who was mentioning language in their part of main idea, I asked them, is this an additional point or a main idea? And then they came back and said, I think it was Riaz, came back and said that this is an additional point. The stock exchange and the black market are both market institutions. Is this the main idea? Absolutely not. And that's why you didn't pick it. Main idea has to be about the whole passage. And here the best answer is definitely 1. Well done. Okay, I'll come to the passage. Don't worry. Let's do question 4 and then I'll come to the passage. People who want to leave after question 4 can leave. Okay, let's do this. Karun, best answer 1 not correct is not true. It is correct. Correct in the sense there is no flaw, but it is not complete. It's not a complete main idea. There could have been a better main idea, but we didn't have that. In CAT, we don't look for perfect answers. We look for the best answer, but the best answer doesn't have a flaw. Whether it's incomplete or complete, yes, that's possible. So it's correct, but it's incomplete. By the way, folks, apart from the mock that you can register and give right away, it will be available till Sunday midnight. There's also a 6,000 rupee discount going on. Okay. So if you're considering joining 2am, maybe this is a good time. It will, by the way, that discount will end tonight. Okay. But yeah, if you're interested, email us, right? Email us at info@2am.com. Okay. Saying that you're interested in exploring the discount, and then the team can talk to you tomorrow. Okay. 30 seconds. That's fine, Sridhar, no worries. It's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. Although it's a specific question. Of course, I hope you're going back to that specific portion, rereading it and trying to extract the answer. Okay, but it is tricky. It's a weird kind of a construction, but we'll see. I'm ending it in 10 seconds. That's fine, Reyes. I'll explain it. Don't worry. There's also an example. See, and then we'll talk about it at the end. I'll explain it. I'm ending the poll now, okay? Just vote, everyone. Okay. All right, it's split. You can see, so this question is difficult. No doubt about it, okay? 41% of you are saying 3. Okay. 37% is saying 1. Very, very, very close. Okay. 17% is saying 2. 3% is saying 4. Okay. In the first paragraph of the passage, it tells you, first paragraph, what are the two characterizations that are seen as overlapping but not congruent? This is the first line, isn't it? Okay, we go back and read. It's a trick you with the English construction of the sentence, and sometimes authors construct sentences in a very weird way, like in a very sort of difficult way, so it becomes difficult to understand. That's what's happening here. Okay, we begin with the emergence of the philosophy of the social sciences. Okay, we begin with the emergence. Now the reason why I'm fixating on this is because there is a question around it. When I read it in the first time, I wouldn't fixate on it. Understand the difference. Okay, now we have to fixate. We begin with the emergence of the philosophy of the social sciences. Okay, so emergence of the philosophy of the social sciences as an arena of thought and as a set of social institutions. Okay, can we now decipher the statement as philosophy of social sciences emergence? Two parts to it. Arena of thought, set of social institutions. 1, 2. Can I diagrammatically represent this sentence like this? Yes or no? I'll wait for your answer. Okay, you can keep answering. All right, great. The two characterizations overlap but are not congruent. This is what the question is asking. Academic disciplines are social institutions. Okay, so set of social institutions. So we can put academic disciplines below that, right? Under set of social institutions. All right. My view is that institutions are all those social entities that organize action. This is the main idea. Okay, now we can stop here. So we've done that, right? Now let's go back to our question. In the first paragraph of the passage, what are the two characterizations that are seen as overlapping but not congruent? These are the two characterizations. Arena of thought, set of social institutions. Do we have that? Let's check. The philosophy of the social sciences and a set of social institutions. No. Philosophy of the social sciences, the umbrella. Arena of thought and set of social institutions. Academic disciplines and institutions. This seems to be the same thing, no? Because academic disciplines are institutions. An arena of thought and academic disciplines. It was arena of thought and social institutions, isn't it? But academic disciplines are social institutions, correct? Can you see that on my screen? I'm going to wait for 5 seconds. Academic disciplines are under set of social institutions, right? Because it says academic disciplines are social institutions. So it belongs in the second category. So this seems to be correct. Let's park it. Individuals and social structures, definitely not. This is wrong because academic disciplines and institutions are the same thing. Philosophy of the social sciences is the umbrella term. The answer is 3. Do you get it? Okay, now it looks I made it sound very simple, no? It's not that simple. When I first looked at it, it took me a while to figure it out. But this is how English works. See, this is a construction, the way the author has constructed it confuses you. But see, when you're reading the passage, we don't get stuck here. Do not get stuck here for the first time. There is a question, we come back and spend that time if you want to solve that question. Right now, you diagrammatically represent it. You have a notepad. Do it. You folks like quant and DLR, most of you, right? Do that, whatever diagrammatic equation thing that you want to do and figure it out. Sir, why not option 1? Okay. Philosophy of social sciences and a set of social institutions. Philosophy of social sciences is not that attribute, no? Characterizations. The characterizations are of philosophy of social sciences. Varsha, understand it. The two characterizations overlap. These characterizations are of philosophy of social sciences. Look at the diagram. The two characterizations are arena of thought and set of social institutions. They are characterizations of the philosophy. So you can't call the philosophy as the characterization. That's why. Okay. All right. Was it written because it seemed too obvious? Yeah, correct. That happens. That happens sometimes, you know, we're like, oh, options can't be that obvious, but then sometimes questions that give you obvious options. Right? So if you're like reasonably sure, again, accuracy should be 90%. If you're 90% sure, go for it. Okay. Arun, conduct VRC. I do it every week, Arun, pretty much. I take a break. So what we do is we do slot 1, we take a break, we come back. And now slot 2, you'll see me in subsequent weeks. Next week, we'll do 2 more RCs and then verbal ability for slot 2, then take a break and come back and do slot 3. Okay, fantastic. All right. Now, folks, I'll explain the passage to you very quickly. These are the 2 things. All India mock, I would strongly recommend you register. Okay, it will be refundable if you join our courses, any of our courses. And 6,000 off till now. You can email info@2am.com and our academic counselors will get in touch with you tomorrow. All right, perfect. Now, folks who want to leave can leave. Folks who want to stay back for the explanation of this passage, stay back. How many of you want me to explain the passage? Let me run a quick poll so that I can understand. If there's not people, then okay, quickly vote in this poll, folks, so that I see how many of you are interested. I know it's late, so that's why I want to be a little conscious. Fantastic. I have my answer. I'll end the poll. Most of you want me to do it, so I'll end the poll. Okay. All right. Perfect. Let's do it. Folks who want to leave can leave. Again, I do this every week, 8 or 8:30 p.m. So come back next week as well. And if you have any questions, you can put them in if you're a 2am student, you know how to get in touch with me. If you're not, put them in the YouTube comments and I will get back to you on that. Okay, let me drink water. Thought process behind attempting such a passage in the exam, because usually we feel it's better to avoid such topics like sociology and philosophy, whereas here are the questions are easier. See, Shri, I'll tell you one thing, and you're right. I mean, that's the mindset. Avoiding the topics based on genres, I don't think is a good idea. Okay. So number one, you should get comfortable with all sorts of genres. That should be a part of your preparation phase, diversity. I'm not comfortable. I've never been comfortable with philosophy. When I started my journey, I switched my career, I started this, I used to hate. I was like, what is philosophy? I'm not an art student. I've never read philosophy in life, but I've grown. I've forced myself to read philosophy, and now I understand it better because I know the basic terms and stuff. So first you start preparing, expose yourself to different genres, expose yourself more to the genres that you don't like. Second, you've seen how a complicated genre can have manageable questions. So that's why that I'm going to choose a passage based on genre is not a good idea. I always tell people start reading the passage. Okay, irrespective of the topic. When you're nearing the 50% mark or the 40% mark of the passage, if you're able to, if you're at that stage, at the 40% mark, you're like, okay, I understand what the author's main idea is. I might not understand everything, but I understand what the author's main idea is. Okay, carry on. Power through it. Read everything, but focus on the main idea. Extract a broad main idea and do only those questions that you're confident of. Repeat and rinse with the second passage. Read the passage, 40% mark. Now 40% mark, philosophy of technology from slot 1. 40% mark, I can't make any head or tail about this passage. Say for instance, you're like, I'm lost. I can't even extract the main idea. Like M of the main idea also I can't extract. And I'm nearing half of the passage. Don't do it. Skip that passage. Fine, I understand you've spent some time, but that's okay. Okay, go to passage number 3. Typically in CAT, if they give you a philosophy of technology esoteric passage, they won't give you 2 passages like that. Doesn't happen. 1 is always a very difficult territory. Okay, 1 will be difficult. So 1 will be very difficult, 1 will be difficult, 2 will be moderate. It's like that typically. But I would say if you're able to extract the main idea, if it's a difficult passage, remember the questions can be easy. So don't go according to genres. All right. Fantastic. Long answer to a very short question, but I hope you got that. Now let's look at this passage, okay? Okay, Shri, I'll answer that question later, but let's look at this, okay? Okay, now folks, please pay attention. I know it's towards the end. I'm also tired. You're also tired, but let's do this, okay? I always tell people effective reading, right? What is strategy number 1? You sort of check your pose, sitting straight, active. Tell yourself, irrespective of the content, I'm going to read it with a lot of curiosity, interest, and enthusiasm. And then attack it with full concentration. This is the time, after 2 hours, this is the time you need that strategy. Okay, it works. Okay, let's do it. Now, just focus on this, okay? And I'm going to read it as I read it the first time. We begin with the emergence of the philosophy of the social sciences as an arena of thought and as a set of social institutions. Okay, I'm lost here. I'm just talking aloud. I'm lost. I don't know what is happening here. It's saying something about philosophy of the social sciences and it says arena of thought and a set of social institutions. Okay, whatever. Let's continue. The 2 characterizations overlap but are not congruent. Okay. Academic disciplines are social institutions. Now, it took me a while to digest it. It's like academic disciplines are social institutions. Okay, so the author is taking an abstract view. Academic disciplines like sociology, social sciences, arts, literature, whatever academic disciplines, the author is saying they're social institutions. Okay, all right. My view, author's view, is that institutions are all those social entities. Hold on a second. I'm going to continue here. I'll minimize the chat. It's a little distracting. Okay. All right. My view is that, oh no, this is even more distracting. Sorry. 1 second, folks. Okay. My view is that institutions are all those social entities that organize action. Okay. So the author is defining institution. I'm just talking to myself. That's what I do. Okay. So my view is that social institutions are all those social institutions are all those social entities that organize action. They link acting individuals into social structures. So action. Okay. There are various kinds of institutions. Okay. So now the author is giving you different kinds of institutions. Hegelians and Marxists emphasize universal institutions such as the family, rituals, governance, economy, and the military. Okay, they are universal. They're present everywhere. Okay. These are mostly institutions that just grew. Perhaps in some imaginary beginning of time, they spontaneously appeared, popped out of nowhere. In their present incarnations, however, they are very much the product of conscious attempts to mold and plan them. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I've read quite a bit. Okay, I'll try to extract some main idea what the author is saying. So the author is definitely talking about social institutions, right? This is the passage that you should take written notes, by the way. It will help you. Comprehension. So the passage is talking about social institutions. The author defines it, connects it with action. That seems to be an interesting point. The author talks about kinds of social institutions. Okay, I'm not including the first line because I didn't understand the first line. Okay, and then the author says that there are universal institutions present everywhere, like family, rituals, blah, blah, blah. They appeared out of nowhere, but it's in the current incarnation or version, it's possible to mold and plan them. So it's possible to modify them. That's what I got so far. All right, short notes. Let's move on. We have family law established and disestablished churches. We have family law, established and disestablished churches, constitutions and laws, including those governing the economy and the military. Institutions deriving from statute, like joint stock companies, are formal by contrast with informal ones such as friendships. Okay, so the author is talking about kinds of socialization. So now the author is talking about formal and informal social institutions with an example. Okay. There are some institutions that come in both informal and formal variants as well as mixed ones. So there can be mixed also. There can be formal plus informal also. Okay. Consider the fact that the stock exchange and the black market are both market institutions, one formal, one not. Okay. Consider further that there are many features of the work of the stock exchange that rely on informal, non-codifiable agreements, not least the language used for communication. So it's focusing on a lot of the mixed nature of these institutions. To be precise, mixtures are the norm. Fantastic. From constitutions at the top to bylaws near the bottom, we are always adding to or tinkering with earlier institutions. The grown and the designed are intertwined. Fantastic. Okay. What is the main point of this paragraph? After paragraph, you should stop and extract the main point. I stopped in the middle because of a long, complex paragraph. You can stop however number of times you want. There's no rule to that. But what is the main point of this paragraph? What am I able to extract? I took some notes also, right? Broadly, I'm able to extract the author has defined social institutions. The author is taking a very broad view of social institutions, right? And is saying that social entities that organize actions are social institutions. And then the author talks about different kinds of institutions, universal institutions, formal, informal, mix. That is the main idea of this paragraph, according to me. Do you agree or not? Is it making sense? And if you don't agree, tell me, okay? I'm trying to really give you the view of me reading this for the first time. Otherwise, now I can give you a very fantastic sort of in-depth view of, oh, this is the line and that is the line. No. First time, that's not going to happen. That's why, like when you're reading a passage, don't start getting into okay, of course we relate it to the outside world, our knowledge and all that is okay. But don't go beyond it because it's not going to happen the first time. And that exam pressure, you'll not be able to sort of go with a magnifying glass and look at that passage incisively. No, it's always going to be a broad main idea. Can I get some more answers, please? I'm getting only two yeses. Is it making sense? Okay. I hope it's making sense. Let me continue. It is. Okay, thank you. All right. Now, first one done. Okay, now let's go to the second paragraph. Let's take a deep breath. Okay, and then do it. It is usual in social thought to treat culture and tradition as different from, although alongside institutions. Okay, it's usual in social thought to treat culture and tradition as different from, although alongside institutions. So they're different from institutions, but they're alongside, side by side. It's usual in social thought. Okay. Somebody says no. Okay, Anuj, I need to understand why you're saying no so that I can come back to it. Okay. All right. The view taken here is different. So now understand this, connect the dots. It says it's usual in social thought to treat culture and tradition as different. But the view taken here is different. The author's view is different. Culture and tradition are subsets of institutions analytically isolated for explanatory or expository purposes. Okay, so culture and tradition are subsets of institutions. So we have insti on top, social institutions. Culture and tradition, according to the author, are subsets of this institution. Okay, analytically isolated for explanatory or expository purposes. Expository is also explanatory, very similar. Exposition is explanation. Add this to your vocabulary. So according to the author's views, they've been isolated. They're subsets. They've been isolated for explanation purposes. Some social scientists have taken all institutions, even purely local ones, to be entities that satisfy basic human needs under local conditions. Some social scientists have taken all institutions, even purely local ones. So for some scientists, institutions are entities that satisfy basic human needs. Others differed and declared any structure of reciprocal roles and norms and institution. Now I didn't understand this line. Reciprocal roles and all of that. Okay, reciprocal role apparently is like a relationship where you give and take. Typically that's what it is. But I didn't understand it in the beginning. Like any relationship you do say, na, boyfriend, girlfriend, parent, child, teacher, student, it can be give and take. Not teacher, student, but friend and friend. Right? Okay. But anyway, I didn't understand this. So I'm not going to fixate on it. I read it. I'm not going to fixate on it. Most of these differences are differences of emphasis rather than disagreements. These differences. Okay, some social scientists considering institutions as basic needs, some considering different. So the author is saying the difference of emphasis, not disagreements. Okay. Let us straddle all these versions and present institutions very generally as structures that serve to coordinate the actions of individuals. Aha, the author is going back to that point. You see that? That was the author's definition, right? The author is going back to it. The author is saying, listen, don't get into all of this. Don't straddle all these versions. Present institutions very generic. And that we discovered in the first paragraph. He's taking a very broad view of institutions as structures that serve to coordinate actions of individuals. It's coming up again. That should tell you it's a part of the main idea. Okay. Institutions themselves then have no aims or purpose other than those given to them by actors or used by actors to explain them. Actors are related to action. So that action, it's screaming again, action. So what is the main point of this paragraph? Of course, the paragraph says social institutions, the author believes they are subsets, culture and tradition. But the main point is author is like, okay, you know what, don't get into this too deeply. Take a general definition that institutions are structures that serve to coordinate actions. Now you should get that thing that, oh, this is probably the main idea here. Let's continue. Language is a formative institution for social life and science. Now this is a new point that's coming up. Both formal and informal language is involved, naturally grown or designed. Languages, all of these to varying degrees. Languages are paradigms of institutions or from another perspective, nested sets of institutions. So it's calling language a model of institution. It's also calling language an institution in itself. Syntax, semantics, lexicon and alphabet character set are all institutions within the larger institutional framework of a written language. So we have language here as an institution. Then there are things, subsets, which is syntax, semantics, lexicon, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Natural languages are typical examples of what Ferguson calls the result of human action, but not the execution of any human design. Reformed natural languages and artificial languages introduce design into their modifications or refinements of natural language. Okay. So in the first time what I got was, okay, there is natural language, which is natural, and there is reformed natural languages and artificial languages, which are designed. So natural is natural. Artificial and reformed is design. That's what I got. Above all, languages are paradigms of institutional tools that function to coordinate. I didn't really get too much out of this. Okay, but I was like, okay, this seems like an additional point. It is connecting language and it's calling it as an institution and it's also connecting it to a social institution. That's what I got. Okay, all right. What is the main idea now? The main idea very broadly was that the author considers social institutions very broadly, okay, as structures that serve to coordinate the actions of individuals or as social entities that organize action. I always borrow sentences and words from the passage to give the main idea. It will help you to remain on the same right track. Sometimes it's not possible, but don't try to get very fancy with it. So my main idea is the author is focusing on the definition of a social institution very broadly and connecting it to action. Then the author also goes on to talk about different kinds of institutions. Formal, informal, universal, also talks about culture, tradition, also talks about language, but these seem to be additional points. The main focus, according to me, is on the definition. That's my main idea. That's how I did it. Okay, then I went to question 1. I was like, oh, question 1 is specific. I went back, read it, okay, and I was able to figure it out. So I said, okay, I'll go with this question. Okay. Second one. This was tricky. Right? This was tricky. It took a bit of a while. A sense this was simple, as you saw, if you got the main idea. This was definitely tricky. Okay, so in the exam, what I would have done is, I would have probably gone for 1, 2, and 3 for sure I would have gone. Okay. 4 I would have left it because I probably wouldn't have been able to crack the construction. 1 and 2 I would have done them with like 90% accuracy. Alright. Is this making sense? I know like it's not the most glamorous thing to listen to someone explain an RC passage, right? But then sometimes it's just required. Karun says, come on, it's Blitzkrieg meant to be intense. Fantastic. Yes, exactly. What is the Blitzkrieg, folks, by the way? Tell me in vocabulary test. What is the Blitzkrieg? Is it making sense, people? Yes or no? Please tell me. Am I talking? Question 2, option 1. I'll come down to it. Sridhar, is it making sense? First, tell me, please. I need that feedback. Otherwise, I'm like, is this working or not? Okay. All right. I hope this is clear. Anyway, great. Now, Sridhar is saying, can you explain question 2, option 1? Intense army campaign. Karun, fantastic. Very good. That's what it is. So, Blitzkrieg can be, let's say, Russia, or I'll take Ukraine. Let's say Ukraine says, I'm going to go. Ukraine soldiers will go and employ or execute a very intense attack. Warfare attack on Russia. Well, let's say bombing the Russia. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't. But I'm just saying, bombing cities left and right. That's a blitzkrieg. It's an intense amount of rapid warfare. Okay, that's a literal meaning of it. But any intense activity can be blitzkrieg. Okay. All right. We're all soldiers. I like that. I like that warrior mindset. Right. We're all like verbal ability soldiers. Okay, question 2, this one, Sridhar, I hope so. All the following inferences from the passage are false except, so he wants me to explain this one. This was the answer, right? Yeah, so that means this is true. Natural language refers to the stage of language development where no conscious human intent is evident in the formation of language. What do we understand by human intent? It's connected to intentionally. Either you do something intentionally or you do something unintentionally. Yeah. So if you're doing something intentionally, you know what you're doing and you know why you're doing it. Okay. So let's say, for instance, you're like, when I'm doing VRC questions, intentionally I will slow down when it comes to questions and options. I will read each question and options like a kid, each and every word. You're intentionally doing it. What is the intent behind it? Because you want to improve your accuracy. Let's take an example of unintentionally. Let's say you're solving a question. You didn't really understand the question, or you thought you understood it, but you were on the wrong track, but you somehow landed up on the right answer. That is unintentional. This is gone lucky. It's not connected to luck, but I'm just saying you did that unintentionally, right? You marked 1. Fluke. But your understanding was wrong. You didn't mark it for the right reasons, but you ended up marking the right answer. That's unintentionally. Right? Okay. So natural language refers to that stage of language development where no conscious human intent is evident. So this option is saying that natural language, and the word natural, doesn't involve any human intention. That means human didn't go and consciously say that, oh, I'm going to develop a natural language. It just happened. That's what the option is saying. There was no human conscious intent involved. But unconsciously, the human ended up devising the natural language. Human intent is like a motivation behind doing something. Human intent is like intention. Yeah, sort of. It's intent. It's basically you're doing it consciously, right? Any activity that you do consciously. Okay, I'm doing this because I want to achieve this. That's intentional. Unintentional is you do this and it turns out to be something, but you didn't mean it to. Like you're solving the question, right? You didn't mean to sort of have that outcome, but you got that outcome. That's unintentional. Sridhar, is this making sense? So the option is saying that natural language, it wasn't a human conscious activity, and that's what the passage is also saying. Natural languages are typical examples of Ferguson called the result of human action, but not the execution of any human design. Result of human action. The humans did something, it resulted into that. But they didn't, when they were doing the action, their intent was not to create a language. Understand that. Humans did some action, but with another outcome in mind. Byproduct, it created a language. So there was no design involved. There was no intent involved. That's what the passage is saying, and that's what the option is also saying. Okay? All right. Fantastic. All right. I think, folks, we'll call it a day. I'm also like a little exhausted now. So put your questions. If you're my students, of course, you can come back and ask me. Put the questions in YouTube comments. Happy to answer that. Okay. I'll see you next week, and like the stream before you go. Okay. All right. Take care, folks. Enjoy. Enjoy your weekend. Give the mock. Okay. Perfect. I'll end the stream now. Thank you, Ashwin.